I want to touch on two things that Mr. Shields touched on earlier. My presentation this morning is definitely touching on, or I'm going to expand on partnering with vendors. One being our software vendor. The other part of that is, and I appreciate Mark taking the time to do that this morning and that introducing your group. So I would like to take the time this morning to introduce my group. John White. John, I'll start with you, and if you don't mind, just to...
John White, South Carolina DOT, the Director of Supply and Equipment in South Carolina.
Okay, I'll talk now. Y'all, I'm Angel Durham.
My name's Henry Stevens. I'm with Tennessee Department of Transportation, Police Supervisor.
My name is Ken Hampton with Tennessee Department of Transportation. I'm the Transportation Manager. Henry DT is our spec relier.
I'm Danny Keene with the Arkansas DOT. I'm the Division Head of Equipment and Procurement.
I'm Mark Holloman with the Arkansas DOT. I'm the Fleet Manager.
Dalton Pratt, Texas, Fleet Operations Division Director.
Good morning, I'm Stan Carlton. I'm the Equipment Management Coordinator for Alabama Department of Transportation.
Mike Ritz from Virginia, Assistant State Equipment Manager, and I obviously do not have a southern accent because I'm a transplant from Ohio.
I'm Bill Shear, Equipment Engineer from Louisiana, and what I do is anything that is associated with that.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan Leader. I'm the Equipment Spec Writer for Mississippi DOT.
And of course, we do have a couple of retirees with us. That is Earl and Reed McAtee from Mississippi. And of course, Reed is our current treasurer for SSEMC. So Reed, if you don't mind to stand, I think most know you in the room. But well, I did want to touch on, what Mark had mentioned earlier with some of the things they had encountered and some challenges they were faced with. Is we as well were faced with some challenges, and that being some of the way we track our inventory, the way we manage our inventory. And what really brought this to light for us is probably, I don't know, working with Scott 4 or 5 years ago and the national metrics, and when we attempted to pull data and look at that data, some of that data didn't look well, and we were thinking, okay, what are the factors here providing this data that the numbers are not where they need to be or where we think they need to be. So it brought us to a place and a time where we knew we had to do something better. And then sometimes it's not always the data itself, it's sometimes, is the data being reported? Is the data being entered correctly? So I say all that, and that's what my presentation this morning concerning our fleet software and technician mobile applications. And as Mark mentioned this morning with partnering, I do have with me, a gentleman from Agile Assets, and if you don't mind to stand, that's Brett Payer. That's Rick Hathaway, and Patrick in the back. So these are some folks that I've been working with pretty hard over the last year or two in developing some of the things or meeting some of the goals we set for ourselves. So, and these gentlemen have helped us with that. Just to touch on our fleet, KYTC fleet, I say we're probably the only one in the room that is a transportation cabinet. Don't ask me why, but that's just how it is. But anyway, we're a transportation cabinet. Our cabinet is made up of 11,000 pieces, and what does not account in this slide of those 11,000 pieces, we have numerous mower contracts, and in addition to that, we also have approximately 400 snow and ice contract trucks that assist us with snow and ice operations from November to April. In addition to that, we also lease our half-ton and sedans from our finance group, the Division of Fleet Management, and that's what we reference here as 1,800 leased vehicles. We're made up of 12 districts, 14 equipment garages, and in those 12 districts we have 12 equipment supervisors. And then statewide we have 140 technicians that are servicing, maintaining these 11,000 pieces of equipment. Fleet goes for us. We were looking at ways to improve fleet efficiency, improve our fuel reporting, and that being usage and fuel economy, and the support utilization requirements, reassignments, and replacement scheduling. Currently for us, we have what we call a modified replacement schedule. On this modified replacement schedule, we have identified numerous pieces of equipment that are actually of high utilization, and that modified replacement schedule is based on age, where we've determined that this piece of equipment has reached its point or time in life, and then the operational repair cost hit that torque curve to where you're experiencing a high rate of maintaining or keeping that piece in your fleet. That consists of around 20 plus pieces, and about to maintain that schedule, those schedules that we have identified is about $22 to $23 million to maintain that schedule. Here's what we've come to recognize and some of the things we've introduced as far as our fleet software solutions. We've actually, I know my group is aware of it. We discussed it the first day when we had in our breakout session, but for Kentucky, we're, other than 3 bulk tanks that we have in our central office location, and that being Frankfort, we are strictly retailers. So we work with WEX, Fleet One. They are the sole provider for our fueling for most of the state, and that is that we have a WEX card assigned to every vehicle, every truck. We have transfer tanks that we use for mobile fueling as far as it relates to tractors, construction equipment, and those things. Another part, or key component of our solution or software solution was preventive maintenance functionality. Working with Agile, we did develop a preventive maintenance notification. So this notification, we've identified the servicing requirements or criteria for maintaining a piece. Through this solution, we actually have various, or at any given time, notifications that go out to our equipment supervisors and crews as far as pieces that are coming up or are past due or currently due for some level of service. In some of these reporting or solutions that we've developed, we've also been able to track downtime and create a utilization report. Rental rate calculator. The rental rate calculator is well, most of your rental rates are based, primarily on what your given authority or your budgets are set up to be. So, of course, we can't set a rate and collect too much revenue, because you collect too much revenue, what can you do with it when you only have this authorized budget to spend? So, given the number of pieces we have, given some of the costs associated with that and the fuel, we find that even with our rental rate calculator, we typically have to adjust those rates so it more so aligns with the budget that we've been given. And we've streamlined the process for more information entry and retrieval. That being, we've simplified the process and how some of our folks or our supervisors, our technicians are entering information. At times, we've had a very complex and complicated system, but working with Agile, we've made that system for our folks a little more navigational friendly. In such a sense that, we know information's getting put in there, that it's not overcomplicated in trying to enter data, create work repair orders, and so on. And of course, all this is, I mentioned Scott earlier, is, our national performance measurements, trying to provide accurate reporting to that. I definitely didn't talk to Scott some time back about supporting documents and what some states were doing, offering those supporting documents, and didn't want to be a state that's just actually trying to submit a page and have a page full of green lights. We want to do it accurately. We want to make sure the information we're providing is a reflection of what we're actually doing and have in our state. So that being said, we had to get a good handle on the software, our inventory software, and the things that we had at hand. And in building those reports, making sure that we had folks that were providing information in a correct manner and that information was getting entered. Key benefits from all of this were we identified higher repair issues, we improved our fleet efficiency, we identified fuel economy and excessive idle issues. In addition to that, we also pinpointed deficiencies and improvements. Biggest deficiency we've actually been able to pinpoint with this for us has been those hard copies, those hard sheets we have with work orders and work repairs. Sometimes that information wasn't appropriately or correctly getting entered into the system, which had a negative effect on some of these reports that you were seeing. So doesn't necessarily mean that you had something that was of a low utilization that just wasn't getting time reported against it, or it wasn't getting some action reported against it. So, of course, that being said, it actually created false triggers. So this has definitely helped us clean up or clear some of those issues that we were experiencing. Through some of this is just a snapshot of some graph reports that we pulled and Rick Hathaway has been helping me with this is what, on our Agile Assets, is what we call our summit reports. So this is just a snapshot of that, you know, with the various reporting focuses, and what you can pull from this is, you know, of course, your replacement analysis, and that's based upon, you know, what's structured for your state, the budget you have to work with, the number of pieces you have. So, you know, a lot of that stuff has to determine, or does determine, your replacement analysis and what that criteria may be. Also identifying life cycle costs, you know, when you're throwing a repair, when you're throwing fuel and maintenance and all those things into there, your operational cost. You know, what does it cost for not only procuring that machine, but maintaining and having that machine in your fleet? Utilization. So utilization is something we've looked very close at. You know, utilization could, for us, you know, of late, you know, as motor graders, have we've gotten to a point in time, do we need to procure motor graders when you're talking $200,000, $225,000, $250,000? Are we being good stewards of that and spending that kind of money on something that has an extremely low utilization? Utilization being, you know, you think Kentucky, snow and ice, what? But most of our folks see a motor grader as something for their snow and ice operation. So they've got to have it, they need it, but what is the cost with having that? That's not so much a need, but more so a want. And we've more so focused on those pieces with rental and lease contracts. So, you know, seasonal type pieces of equipment there that we can rent rather than the procurement cost to own that and maintain those pieces. In addition to that, you know, historical trending, which, you know, has some reflection upon utilization and performance, of course. So some of these reports, and then you know, after this, if you have any questions, you know, Rick Hathaway can provide you more detail on this. But performance, this is structured or set up in a way, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, because I know we're continually working on this. This is set up in such a way that we can nail our performance with repair issues, excessive idling, fuel consumption, those kinds of things. We can nail this down not only by the asset number, but we can nail these measurements down by also the make and model. You know, your make and model of that asset. So very, very detailed reports, very crucial information in here as far as what those identifiers are. So, you know, if you have a certain model, make or model of piece of equipment or vehicle, and you have, you know, performance issues, these reoccurring issues, or do we need to do something different? Is there something out there that we need to be looking at a different make and model of something? So with this performance measure, you know, it actually gives us the ability to look at things in more detail of that. Not so much as a description of what it is, but more so the make and model of what that is. And of course, leading all up to this, when we talk about, you know, making it somewhat better for our technicians and our equipment supervisors, what we call equipment supervisors. Some may call you, you know, your district fleet manager or regional fleet manager. We reference those folks as equipment supervisors. But they're folks, those guys that they have in the field. We have some locations that have them stationed in the garage. We also have some of those folks, you know, that have mobile technicians. So they'll travel from county to county or project to project. And then what we experienced through all of those things was some of those technicians, you know, they were keeping hard logs. They were keeping, you know, spreadsheets on things that they had and the work that they did out in the field. And it may take a week, it may take 2 weeks, it may take 3 weeks. And in some instances, if the paperwork even got turned in, they were turning it into the equipment supervisor / their administrative personnel to actually see that the work was entered into the system. Well, we've been working with Brett on this mobile application, and not to get to a sense to where we're trying to customize something to what Kentucky needs, but basically something that's off the shelf that may apply to all fleet users. What we've seen with this mobile app and the added value with this mobile app, and we have it listed here, you know, it definitely is. We have this in 3 districts that we're testing this now, and that's District 7, District 10, and District 12. We've seen increased efficiencies with this. We've also seen this is an alternative to a desktop, which the mobile app, in referencing or comparing that to the desktop, is definitely, the mobile app has simplified that process for our technicians. It's improved our data accuracy. You know, things are more so being reported than they ever were before. It's simplified our workflows, of course. It's a portable attempt or a portable way in reporting your data. And it definitely provides us with the flexible ability to report those things in comparison to, you you know, like I said, especially with our mobile technicians, clipboards and spreadsheets and hard sheets and things of that nature. Fleet mobile app at KYTC. So for us, who are these designed around? Who are these to serve? Well, our intended user are our garage supervisors, you know. In addition, our equipment supervisors, directly under him, they have what we call a garage supervisor, and that was geared not only for our, our equipment supervisors, but also our garage supervisors and our mechanics / technicians. And of course, the intended use for this app was to track equipment activities with an iOS device at garages or work sites. And this the Fleet mobile app, Fleet module of Agile Assets Management 7.1. We currently were on a 6.8 platform and have recently been moved up to a 7.1. That is not the most recent version of Agile Assets software. There is currently, I think, of late Brett 7.3, if I'm not mistaken. So we're looking probably within the next year or two, I hope, to actually move to the 7.3 version, which with that version we also pick up additional benefits or enhancements with that. Here are our current capabilities. Now this is just a snapshot of the app itself, a repair order. And this gives us the ability to actually go in and create, the technician to not only receive a repair order, but actually create a repair order out into the field. This will actually track our service type, so whether it's a basic maintenance or oil change, you know, there's brake repair, some sort of tire repair, whatever that repair be, they have the event type or service type. We have the ability in that, you know, and a lot of things that we find, just because you've done a $500 brake job or a $1,000 brake job, there's a lot of times that there's no comments attached to that work order or repair. And sometimes that makes it challenging. You know, we may have a list or may not have a list of parts. Maybe all we have is a total. But this actually, with the way this app is designed, it requires for some level or some amount of comments to be entered into this field. It also gives us the ability to update odometer value. And just touching on odometer value, this app is not the only thing that we use to update or enter odometer value. Currently, odometer value is entered by day cards. In addition to day cards, we're also updating odometer with our WEX fuel interface. And most recently, working with Agile, we're also going in the process, and hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days, we'll be updating our odometer with GPS interface. In addition to that, we can also assign work orders or jobs to the technician, mechanic. It also gives them the ability to actually view and update warranty information. Seems like we've struggled with that quite a bit out in the field, especially when you're looking at, you know, on a mobile application as far as a mobile technician and some of the information they may or may not have. But this actually gives them the ability to actually view that asset and see what the current warranty information is on that particular asset. Of course, we also have they have the ability to enter the start date, which I need to elaborate just a little bit on entering our start date. So especially what we call activity code 128, which is a preventative maintenance service, is when they actually enter that start date, that actually recreates or restarts the clock for us on our preventive maintenance measure. So that is one of the criteria is built into our preventive maintenance measure with the start date that actually restarts the clock for us on our preventive maintenance. Also, it gives the technician or supervisor the ability to review vehicle history. So many times before, you know, and I'm sure most of you in the room have had the situation with your staff or your technicians, whatever it be, that, you know, they may be somewhat uninformed when they go out to a location that this is a job now we're conducting repair on the second or third or fourth time in just a 12-month period. So this actually initiates the process or the thought for a little more investigation before we just do this next action or event that we previously did 2 or 3 times within a very short period. Current capabilities with our Fleet Manager app is that actually records details such as labor and equipment material cost. It provides us with equipment descriptions, hours, also with our asset quantities and amounts. This is one feature in addition to what the app is capable of doing that we're currently not doing, and this is actually barcoding. So it does have the ability with the app that we're currently using that you can scan a barcode on that piece of equipment or truck, and it pre-fills that information rather than requiring the technician to go through the app, pull up the asset, click on that asset, and pre-fill that information. This will automatically pre-fill that information for them. Now, as I mentioned earlier, talking, with making mention of Mark earlier with partnering and partnerships, what we've done here of late is definitely come together with Agile, our software provider, vendor, in that we have weekly status meetings. We're not only speaking with Brett over our mobile app, but we're also speaking with Sydney, which is our account representative. I know he has a different name than that. That's not his title, but I'm just throwing that out here for most that would probably recognize as that. In addition to that, another staff with Agile as far as our software and our system, things that we're currently experiencing, challenges that we have, anything that's come up that's been of issue for us. We have these weekly status meetings with those, and that's typically on Thursdays. We meet with Brett on Friday, and that's anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half conference call. So that's been real beneficial for us. We've had the ability to actually come to the table with our vendor, some of the things that we experience, and rather than just sit on something and continue to experience the same pain you have over and over again, we've actually been able to work with our vendor to actually resolve some of those issues. Future enhancements. So these are some things that Brett and I are currently working on or have spoke of. With our technicians out in the field, there's times when they may not be able to enter comments for whatever reason, or there's more things that they need to expand on. We're looking into also with this app the ability to actually audio capture, so voice notes, those kinds of things. We're wanting to look at this and actually build that into the app, or that be a process in which, when we have those events, when we need to make comments or provide some detailed instructions on something, audio capture. In addition to that, we also have photo capture. Photo capture being some locations we're very limited in what they have at hand, and that being scanners. So photo capture is going to give us the ability to, scanners, cameras, various other things. What photo capture will give us the ability to do is take a quick snapshot of an invoice. Also, in addition to that, when you're doing various repair, whether it's a wreck repair, it's a brake repair, whatever it be, actually capturing an image of that repair and attaching that image to the work request or work order. So us at central office or wherever, when we pull up that work repair or there's an issue that we need to pull something up to review that in detail, then we have these photos to actually capture whatever work or events were conducted. In addition to that, we're working with, this is something of late we've been working on, and that's offline mode. We have some rural locations that do not have Wi-Fi or cellular service readily available. The offline mode will actually give them the means to actually still continue to use that app, enter that information, and then when they get to the point that they have cellular connectivity or Wi-Fi connectivity, then it'll actually transmit that or push that data forward. The scanning capability earlier is character recognition, and that being having the ability to take your phone and actually scan an invoice, scan receipts, and it pulling that data off that invoice, that data off that receipt, and actually applying it to the work order. So many times, and I'm sure it's the same with most, so many times you have a work order, but you have very little or no supporting documents as to how you got from point A to point B. This character recognition will be a clean way of taking that image, the data off of that image, off of that document, and attaching it to that work order. And of course, as we move forward, currently this is only an Apple application, but we are looking at multiple platforms, so that being an Android application as well.
So one area I'm interested in, do you have any examples where you've taken this data and you now have kind of a big 30,000-foot view that you haven't had before, and made decisions with it that you would not have made 10 years ago because you would not have seen a trend? A value, basically where it's come to is you made any value-add decisions that this tool led you to discover that you wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yes, I think there's been a couple of instances where there's been value in this, and it's paid not only short term but long term. Is that I mentioned earlier, where we have an instance where we've had 2 or 3 repairs in a 12-month period, and for whatever reason the technician or mechanic, especially those that are what we call our mobile technicians, had very little information at hand other than just the asset description, and they repaired that unit for the 3rd or 4th time. Did not have detailed information in hand as it relates to previous history or repair history with that unit, and they were able to pull that information up and actually see where, okay, we've done this brake job 6 months ago or 12 months ago, we have premature wear or failure here, and sometimes it's actually resulted in a warranty replacement. So those are proof positive in things that we've seen. I know I've not talked to Brett about that much, but those are things that we've discussed and things that where we see real added value, and there's things, so many things that we deal with that could maybe fall under a warranty requirement.
I'm just wondering if you could let us know what version of Agile Assets you guys are using.
Right now we have 7.1.3, 3 or 4, and that 0.3 or 4 is based upon whatever enhancements or they call hot fixes that you've conducted. So we're at 7.1.3 or 4, somewhere in there.
So the audio capture, is there a built-in translator?
I'll have to let Brett expand on that. Let him touch on that, because him and I talk quite a bit, so I don't know if he's built a translator into that or not. So, well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.